Do 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 do. What is up, everybody? I am Taylor, and this is the Cranky Comic Book Review Show. It's May 25th, right? Something like that. I have a stack of books. I bought them all for you. I mean, I'm not giving any of them to you, but I bought them all to read to you. Okay, I'm not actually going to read them to you, but I read these all, and I'm going to give you my opinions because I feel like you want my opinions. Probably not, but if you're watching this video, that's what this is. These are my opinions on these books, worst to best. It's kind of how this goes. Yeah, and if you like this channel, please like this channel. See what I did there? Hit the subscribe bell, hit the notification bell, so you know when I drop these videos. I mean, even though I do it on a pretty regular schedule, and I don't know, whatever. You don't have to hit the notification bell. Those are kind of annoying. Please subscribe, though. And if you like to support what I'm doing, you can buy merchandise like this witty-ass t-shirt that says broke, because I'm kind of broke after buying all these. And you can buy shirts that say things like that at TaylorWinter.com, link down below. Yeah, but let's get into this. Worst to best, right? Here's a shocker, right? Hulk #7, Banner of War, or the Banner War, whatever the hell. Doesn't matter. Part 3, it's Donny Cates masturbating in a comic book yet again. It feels like my 6-year-old nephew just bashing Hulk and Thor at each other, and then throws in an Iron Man for good measure, and then tries to figure out a reason for it, right? And like who would win in a battle, except for it's got none of the fun that my nephew has when he's doing this. And like, it's just, you can tell Donny Cates thinks there's a really clever goddamn idea behind what he's doing. But it's just really annoying to read. It is so annoying. I cannot wait for this thing to be over. Might be done with Thor, which pains me because Thor is one of my favorite characters, but it's just been slipping so much lately, and this is not helping. I think the Hulk thing is the most idiotic story idea that Marvel's had in ages, and that's saying something because most of Marvel books are hot garbage. And this is the garbagey of the hot, whatever. It's the one of the few I bought this week. It's not good. Yeah. And then we have a DC event that is kind of hot garbage. Started out strong, has slipped, and now has turned into, like, I don't give a shit mode. Like, wait, I'm not supposed to swear for the first minute, right? I'm supposed to wait a minute. We'll see. I hope I ramble for long enough to get it past the YouTube algorithm, because I'm not editing it. Lord knows I don't edit. Deathstroke, #9. I don't like the art on this. I don't give a shit about this story. Like, somebody framed Deathstroke, and now there's a revenge, and somebody's dead, and this event just doesn't feel like much of a thing. They put, I still hate the Clown Hunter costume. It is the dumbest thing ever, and the artist behind this cannot get Clown Hunter's age right. Like, Clown Hunter is supposed to be like a teenager, a young kind of Robin age teenager, right? And then he, like, ultra being looking 7 feet tall, like a 7 foot tall fish. Or an old man. I don't know. The facial expressions bugged me. None of this worked for me. Like, absolutely none of it. There's another one that's a little bit better and about 2 down the stack that's also part of this. Also written by Josh Williamson that I liked a little better. But I want this to be done. That's kind of my theme with the events of these. I just want the events to be over with for the most part. Like, I don't think there's been an event in a long-ass time where I was super excited to read about it. You just kind of want them to be done so you can get back to the regular story of the comic, which is not great. Speaking of which, an event I wish was over, and this should be over, and Devil's Reign Omega. It's Zdarsky on the main story. It doesn't do much. It sort of sets up Thunderbolts. Or no, that's the middle story with Rodney Barnes. Or is it Jim Zub? I don't know. There's 3 stories in here. None of them really do much. This is one of those, like, Marvel things where it's like, there's no need for this wrap-up, quote-unquote, whatever the hell it is. It's already done. The story's finished. And this 3-piece little Omega event doesn't really add anything. It adds a little bit of, like, characterization shit, but, like, you don't need it. Nothing in here is a necessary thing to enjoy the things. I'm optimistic that the reboot of Daredevil is going to be handled well, because it's Zdarsky and Chichetto on that arc that's coming next, and that their last Daredevil run was awesome. This event's just kind of been, it's a Marvel event. You just kind of want it to be over. A DC event you just want to be over. Robin, Deathstroke terminated. Robin number 14. This is the Shadow War Part 7. None of this shit takes 7 issues. The reason this is a little bit higher than the Deathstroke Inc. book is I like the art a little bit better. And I actually enjoy Williamson's characterization of Damian Wayne as Robin. I think he's got this like petulant, angry teen that kind of is mad at dad down fairly well in this. But he's also growing a little bit as a character, or Robin's growing as a character a little bit. And that's the only thing redeeming it. I will keep reading Robin. I'm not going to pick up Deathstroke Inc. But again, I just want this event to be over. And most of Robin has been a bit of a setup for this. I get that because there was Lazarus Island, which kind of led to this event. But I enjoyed the Lazarus Island stuff a whole lot better. There was a new characters introduced that were actually interesting. There was like Robin branching out on his own, which was interesting. And now this is kind of like sucking it all in and taking away the interesting bits. So whatever. All right. I'm trying to go a little bit quicker with these. I don't want these videos to be like 45 minutes. Half hour is kind of where I'm aiming for. I don't know, whatever. Just felt you should know that, people. Batman Fortress number 1. This is written by like somebody that doesn't normally write comics. I think Wida. Art by Derek Robinson. I like the art by Derek Robinson. Always does a solid job on art. Last thing I did remember him doing was the Hellblazer Black Label book, which I can't think of the Fallen Rise and Fall, whatever, something like that. I like that. It's a pretty boring book. I mean, the lights go out in the world, and there's aliens coming. Batman's going to have to deal with it in the Batmaniest of Batman ways from his Batcave. It's all right. It just it feels like it's like maybe a new miniseries or event. This thing's going to last 8 issues, but it doesn't feel like it's treading a whole lot of new ground. Pretty dialogue heavy. And yeah, nothing. It was competent. It was fine, but nothing really. I don't think there's a whole lot new that you're going to gain from reading this. Which I get is it's the monthly Marvel or DC or whatever, and the character stuff. When the characters can't really grow or progress or change, you get these sort of stagnant things, and that just feels like it's like a stagnant thing that should have just been part of like Detective Comics or Shoehorn or something else. But it's DC, and DC is such a raging boner for Batman that there are about 4 billion Batman titles out there, and that's like over half of their lineup. I bought the first issue, and I try and buy the first issue every one because I'm a spec whore, but also to give it a shot. But nothing about that really. It was like, oh, I gotta keep reading this. Nothing interesting enough to be like, oh, I really want to know where this goes. So, this one's on the fence for me. This is Ultramax Book 1. It's written by Doug Wood, art by Michael Picard. The art is sketchy and okay. It's a very loose, like, kind of scribbly style. Not awful. I think the cover is a stronger representation than the interior, and I like this cover. The premise on this, without spoiling a whole lot, if you read any of the solicits, you're going to get this. The main character, who I don't think even has a name, killed the world's strongest hero and is now being sent to prison. So that's the setup. And it's an interesting idea. It's the execution that kind of gets to me. There's some stuff that happens on page turns with like scene breaks and stuff. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And like I went back. I'm like, were the pages sticky? Did I miss something? No. And then there's like, it's just jarring transitions in here that like, I don't know, I felt like I needed an editor to come along and be like, all right, here, you got to smooth this out a bit. You got to like, I get what you're going for, but what's happening right now isn't quite working. And that's how I feel about this one. I will probably, if I hear other things about this from reviewers I like, that I respect, that keep reading this, I might pick it up in a trade at the end. It's not, the idea itself is, like I said, is very interesting, but the execution is just not good enough for me to really want to keep reading it. So, all right, I'm done with this one too. I don't hate it, but I'm trying to stop spending so much money on everything. And the Punisher number 3, the Punisher is in charge of the Hand for reasons that don't really seem like they're fitting, and I'm sure there'll be some big carpet pulling reveal where he's got some dastardly plan all along in like 2 or 3 issues, but it just doesn't feel right. And it started strong. It's just in these 3 issues it hasn't really gone anywhere. The art is okay. Jesus Suez is great on the main art, and then the middle art where you're supposed to learn about backstory of the Punisher, that also doesn't really feel like it fits the Punisher's character. From what I know, again, I'm not a Punisher expert. I don't have any interest in becoming a Punisher expert, and this didn't change my mind as far as wanting me to. It's not bad. It's just not for me. Amazing Spider-Man #2. This is all right. This is fine plus. It's Zeb Wells, who's a competent writer, and John Romita Jr., who's John Romita Jr. If John Romita's art bugs you, it's really going to bug you in this case. He's getting into his Romita-ness, Romitosities. I don't know, whatever. His squared up faces, his thin line work, his everything that, like, it's a Romita book. I don't know how else to put it. So if you like his art, you're going to like it. If you hate it, it's really going to bother you. There's this mystery of what's been going on in Spider-Man, the gap between the last run of Spider-Man and this one, but they don't really touch on it in this issue. There's more of a Tombstone-centric issue. It's all right. I might give it one more issue. Just to see if it picks up and keeps going in an interesting direction. Again, it's competent. It's just not earth-shatteringly good. So, all right. Yeah, Moon Knight number whatever this is. 11. Not the strongest issue of Moon Knight. Not bad. This is one of the first ones where it's not a one and done, where like it's a setup for a multi-part story, which I think is kind of overdue in this Moon Knight arc. It's still decent. You kind of learn what's been going on with the Zodiac, and you learn some of the backstory and stuff. The art, I like Capucha's art, but it felt a little rushed in here. It felt a little sloppy, even by the Capucha standards, which I enjoy the sketchy sloppiness, and I think generally they have a great handle on the action and the pacing and stuff. And here it's just okay. And this issue, while it's setting up like stuff, and while there has a few interesting things that happened in it, it's just not. There were better books this week. I'm still liking it. It's still a solid run of Moon Knight. It's still better than a lot of other stuff that's been put out by the big two, and it's still fun. So if you're enjoying Moon Knight, you'll probably still enjoy this issue. Again, it's just not my favorite of the run this far. That's about it. So, Department of Truth. I don't know what issue this is either. 18. Oh, this is a drag. I like it. There's some very interesting ideas that Tynan's playing with fiction and reality and like multiple sides. You meet the Department of Fiction or the faction of fiction or whatever the hell. You meet the antithesis, the alternate side of the Department of Truth in here, but it sort of just feels like not a lot of this book is going anywhere. I'm intrigued by the art, and I'm intrigued by it well enough that I think it's about where it deserves to be on the list. And even though the art in here is really, really muddy, even for Simmons stuff, it's like kind of indistinguishable. And I think that's on purpose. I think you're supposed to start playing with the idea of like whether or not any of this is true. Get it? Department of Truth. You get it? You get it? Truth Department. It's just kind of a frustrating book because it falls in the Tynan. It's his pacing. He can tell a very good story, but at times it just feels glacially slow, and I think that's what's going on here. I'm going to keep up with this one for a little bit longer. He's got me hooked in long enough that I'm going to keep up with it. I dig the cover. I dig the art. We'll see. All right. You ever have those weeks where like a writer comes up with like 14 books in a week? Chip Zdarsky on Newburn. And also the other theme of this week apparently is, hey, things that have been single issues up until now are now setting up multi-issue arcs. This is the first of a multi-issue arc. It may be technically second because there was a setup in the last issue. This is a solid crime noir fiction. Newburn's an interesting character. Is sort of works for all of the mob gangs in New York and is like the linchpin that doesn't hold the mobs together but keeps them from like killing each other or starting mob wars. He's the peacekeeper, and he's got this assistant, and Elsie, and who he brought on, and like this is the story of like what happens with her and her backstory is sort of coming back to haunt her in the present day, along with another mob calamity. There always is a mob calamity in this book. But if you like crime noir and you like Zdarsky's writing in general, I think you're really going to enjoy this. Jacob Phillips' art is fantastic, as always, and the coloring is great. He colors a lot of his dad's work in the Ed Brubaker books that Sean Phillips collaborates on. But anyway, next we have Stillwater, another Zdarsky book. This is setting up a multi-issue arc. It's not. It's just like it seems like it's been a forever since this came out, but it is maybe it hasn't. But that's just kind of the mindset I have today. It's a solid run. Stillwater in the town where nobody can die. There's politics. There's shenanigans. There's whether or not the world should be told. There's people trying to get out. There's the usual thing, but the rules have all changed. There's been a few of those issues, and this is another issue where the rules have all changed. I'm enjoying it. It's a fun romp. It's not going to change the world, but if you want, like, this would be one of those series that Fox tries to turn into a TV series that lasts about a year. You know, it's like Wayward Pines or whatever. It has a very interesting idea that, like, if it gets converted into a TV show, they're probably going to mess it all up royally, and it just won't last. In the comic form, though, it's a lot of fun. I'm digging it. It's solid. I don't think it's ever been. There's never really been a bad issue of it, so that's about high praise from me, because like a lot of these books have had stinker issues, but this one, solid. We're in the solid fine plus, you know, very fine, very fine. I don't know, whatever. I can't remember the grading scale. Grading scales are hard, people. And actually, look, Tynan is pretty high on the list for me. Something That's Killed the Children, number 23. This is finally starting to differentiate itself from the first arc. There's things that are happening. There's interesting things. The B story is going to become the A story, and the topsy-turvy, straight to curvy. Something is still killing the kids, but that's kind of taking a backseat to what's going on with Erica Slaughter. Deladera's art, actually, I think, is taking a step up, too. There's a lot less of the long, skinny, horizontal panels that bug the crap out of me and were unnecessary for storytelling wise. This is a pretty decent issue of this book. You learn of like this other faction of like what Scarlet Witches. I don't know, whatever. There's I don't know. I don't have all the bandana colors memorized because I don't care. I just watch them as they come, and like you learn kind of what's gonna bad shit's coming for Erica is kind of what you're getting out of this issue, but it's entertaining. If you've been kind of disappointed in Something Has Killed the Children, let me know if you're still reading it, and let me know down below if this issue is changed your mind at all, because I think this is one of the better ones that they've put out lately. All right, we've got a couple left. I am kind of going kind of quick this week. I'm going fast like a rabbit, people. Sorry. If you want more in-depth stuff, let me know. We can talk. I'm just kind of giving you my general quick impressions today. I play this all my mood. I don't script this stuff. I should probably script this stuff, but instead I just kind of, I don't know, tell you what I think. And Shadow Service number 12. I was going to drop this. I was like, it's been so damn long since the first two arcs came out, and then like they started up the new one. I was like, oh, it's all right. But then I really liked this issue. Kevin Scott, who is also on Star Wars High Republic, which I really disliked, is writing a pretty solid story in his own world. It's a MI666 mysteries. There's magicians. There's like archetypes. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Once and Future in some ways, but it's a slept-on book. I don't think a lot of people are reading this, and it's a shame. I've not seen anybody else really talk about it in their reviews, but if you're reading Shadow Service, let me know. Again, let me know down below. I'm digging it. And again, it was almost off the list, not necessarily because it was bad, but just kind of because I forgot about it. But yeah, it's pretty high on the list. There's only a couple books I enjoyed more this week, and yeah, there's like grief and loss and like a finality and an ending to parts of the story in here, and then there's new beginnings and new threats, and like it keeps it going. There's solid pacing, and you learn, you learn that the evil mega corporation-y thingy might not be evil, or maybe they are, or maybe they aren't, or maybe they are. I don't know. You got to read it. All right, my favorite cover of the week, and a solid book since its return. Saga. Number 59, Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan. I just realized Fiona Staples is before Brian K. Vaughan on the title. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't have much to criticize this book about. It's like there's some heartbreaking moments in here. There's a transition. There's like a change in the status quo, which is the way of Saga. The status quo is always changing. It's a character piece with a mother and a daughter, which has kind of shifted a little bit from the beginning of the book. I still am, again, I'm the middle issues I am like vague on. I've not read them all, so my understanding is limited. But since this has come back, I have really enjoyed it. I mean, there's definitely details I want to learn more of, and I definitely want the backstory filled in. But I don't think it's necessary to enjoy what is going on now. If you have any kind of vague idea of Saga or any like brief, notion of what's going on, you're gonna like this. And I think this is another really good issue. So, Saga. We're gonna come in at well under 30 minutes, people. Well under 30 minutes, breakneck pace. Even though we're all just rats in a maze. Man, am I the king of segues. I'm sorry, I just realized my mic was like shadowing on all these books. I am a rookie, people. I've been doing this a couple of years, and I apparently still suck at all this. Ice Cream Man number 30, W. Maxwell Prince and Murato. I don't think any monthly title plays with the form of comics or uses the form of comics more effectively to tell a story right now than Ice Cream Man. The visuals in here are purposeful, and they tie into the nature of the beast. There's a story within a story within a story. There's a maze-like structure to the images and to the story itself. And each issue is a standalone issue that does sort of tie into the world of Ice Cream Man, but there's kind of it's like a late-night horror movie in the best of ways. And this is one of the better issues, I think. There's drug testing, there's people, there's mental health, there's all this stuff in here. And the cover fits. That's all I can say without really spoiling anything on this, but the cover does fit. All right, and then my favorite book of the week, and I think it came out this week. Either way, I got it this week, and this is my favorite book of the week. Swamp Thing. Enunciation. I should learn to enunciate more clearly. Swamp Thing number 13. Ah, man. This is good. Like, honestly, this is everything I wanted in a Swamp Thing book. You get Jack Hawksmoor from Planetary or the Authority, right? And then he's the king of cities or the god of cities and can, if he's barefoot, he can feel the city. Doesn't matter. And then you get Swamp Thing, who's the Servant of the Green, the ambassador. And then you have the cities, who are now forming these factories over. It's an interesting idea of like archetypes and nature and somewhat cooperating with cities, but then there's the rot of the cities, and then there's the backstory or the A story with Levi, who's the new Swamp Thing and Levi's brother. It's Ron V at the top of his game in this book. I've not loved everything Ron V has done lately, Venom, but yeah, Swamp Thing has been great from day one. This is another great issue. I do think they're probably adding in, like, getting tied into something at the end of this, which I normally be a little worried about. But even when this book tied into Suicide Squad, it was handled deftly, and I'm very interested in seeing how this wraps up. I wish it was going to keep going and not end at issue 16, but I do think issue 16 is the end of this story, which is fine. I mean, some stories do have endings. Otherwise, they're not stories. They're fucking Batman, which is a character, not a story. And I think this story of this version of Swamp Thing is going to come to a close. I'm excited to see how it goes. But yeah, this is one of the strongest issues of the week. Sean, yeah, like Perkins' art on here also very moody, very appropriate. It reminds me a lot of like 90s Vertigo in the best of ways. So that's my favorite book of this week. What have you read? What did I miss? What else? What did you think of these books? Did you agree with me? Are there anything else I should be reading? I'm in the middle of switching comic shops, honestly, because I've kind of, like, half these books were kind of beat up already and dinged up. And I know some of that's on the distributor, not necessarily on the owners, but, like, they don't ever seem to catch them. And, like, I seem like I'm dealing with the repercussions of it, and like, and it was damaged books, and I could take them back, I guess. But it's also a half-hour drive, and I found a closer place that gives me a bigger discount, and Bags and Boards books as part of it. So, look, I can get Bags and Boards and not spend money on Bags and Boards. It all matters, people. Gas is like $9 a gallon, or something. That's like 2 comic books with shitty marble paper that you need to put in a bag and a board. Because Marvel's paper is goddamn horrible. All right, don't be a dick, even if the world is goddamn awful. I know there's been tragedies this week. There's always tragedies, but the horror down in Texas with yet another sense of school shooting is fucking rough and unnecessary and brutal, and like shit needs to change. It won't change because fucking America, goddamn, does it need to? And I don't know. Don't be a dick. Just be nice to each other. It's one of those days where I think everyone needs to be a little bit kind. So, all right. I'll see you later.